Do you seriously think that they really care about our health? Do you believe that? Do you think that's why they have told everyone not to go to hospital for umpteen months unless they have COVID-19 symptoms? And give patronising advice about washing our hands with soap and water as if we hadn't tumbled to that? Seriously? I'm sorry, it's just an insult to the intelligence. This guidance is additional statutory guidance issued by the Secretary of State for Transport under Section 18 of the Traffic Management Act 2004. It applies to all highway authorities in England who shall have regard to this guidance to deliver their network management duty. They have a duty to manage networks under the Act. It is effective from the date of publication. It does not replace, that was in May by the way, it does not replace the original network management duty guidance published in November 2004, but provides additional advice, and they will call these things advice, on techniques for managing roads to deal with COVID-19 response-related issues. It will be reviewed 3 months after publication. That means August, by the way. I mean, maybe it will. I don't know. Are they going to change the road layouts back again 3 months after publication? No. The guidance sets out high-level principles. High-level, what does that mean? Well, high level in what sort of level? What's a high-level principle? What is that? What are high-level principles? What does that mean? Sorry, I don't understand. I'm quite intelligent and I don't know what you're talking about. To help authorities, local authorities, to manage their roads and what actions they should take. Updates to this document or further guidance on related subjects, as everything is related to COVID-19, even the transport networks, may be published as the need is identified. www.gov.uk/government/organisations, organisations spelled with an S, /department-for-transport. Then there is another section called Reallocating Road Space. Reallocating road space. The Department for Transport's statutory guidance on network management in response to COVID-19 under the Traffic Management Act 2004. Local authorities in areas with high levels of public transport use should take measures to reallocate road space to people walking and cycling. The roads themselves, not the pavements, I suppose, I mean, unless it's just written badly, it seems to me the road space to people walking and cycling. Well, cyclists have a right to be on the road anyway. Walkers don't. To reallocate road space to people walking and cycling, both to encourage active travel, meaning walking and cycling. I suppose jogging would be active travel as well, if you wanted to do that. And to enable social distancing during restart. Restart. Because we stopped, you see, everything stopped. Everything stopped so that it could be started. Not again, which is what restart means. But so that the ancien régime could be replaced by a nouveau régime during restart. Social distancing in this context primarily refers to the need for people to stay 2 meters apart where possible when outdoors. Doesn't matter if you're indoors, but if you're outdoors, you need to be 2 meters apart, which achieves nothing. If you're not sneezing in people's faces, you're not going to infect them by being 1.5 meters away from them. You're not. Particularly if you're not ill. And this ridiculous carrier. Oh, somebody might not be ill, but they might be a carrier. You carry viruses in your body. Most people carry viruses in their body most of the time, and it doesn't infect other people, and we don't stand 2 meters apart from each other because society cannot endure in such an abnormal state. Local authorities, where public transport use is low, should be considering all possible measures. Measures should be taken as swiftly as possible, and in any event, within weeks. This was the date of this document, is the 12th of May. Given the urgent need to change travel habits before the restart takes full effect. Yes, the Transport Secretary tells us that there is an urgent need to change our travel habits because of COVID-19. Before the restart takes full effect. They'd already changed our travel habits by not letting us go out of our front door, but nevertheless there's an urgent need to change our travel habits. Why? Because of the globalist agenda. None of these measures are new. Now, they seem pretty new to me, or at least their actual application seems new. They are interventions that are a standard part of the traffic management toolkit, but a step change in their rollout is needed to ensure a green restart. A step... I'll read that sentence again. None of these measures are new. They are interventions that are a standard part of the traffic management toolkit, but a step change... Step change? I don't know, I've heard that word before. In their rollout is needed to ensure a green restart. Who writes like this? Who speaks like this? Who talks like this? No one! A step change in their rollout is needed to ensure a green restart. We don't need a green restart. We don't need a step change. And we don't need the rollout of traffic management techniques. They include, and there's a list of bullet points. Here goes. I mean, I may burst out laughing again at these things, but unfortunately, this is the reality of the new world alluded to, in fact mentioned in the second paragraph. The new world. Installing pop-up cycles. Sorry, this reminds me like pop-up books that the children have. Pop-up. Installing pop-up cycle facilities with a minimum level of physical separation from volume traffic. What, so it's a minimum level of physical separation from volume traffic? What, so they're as close to the cars as... What's that all about? For example, mandatory. Everything. They want everything to be mandatory, don't they? What authority do these people have to tell us what to do? Mandatory cycle lanes using using light segregation. Segregation! Oh, we like that, don't we? Segregation features such as flexible plastic wands. Abracadabra, alakazam, flexible plastic wands. Yes, someone somewhere has waved a magic wand. And lo and behold, the new world. Semicolon, or quickly converting traffic lanes into temporary cycle lanes, suspending parking bays where necessary. Also, we're making it impossible for people to park their cars, yeah? Semicolon. Widening existing cycle lanes to enable cyclists to maintain distancing. Why? Why do we need to keep maintaining distance? Why does distancing need to be maintained in the new world? Why? It does not. We do not need social distancing to be a permanent measure, do we? This is supposed to be a temporary measure, so why do we need to make a new world in which social distancing is a permanent fixture and fitting? Can somebody tell me that, please, because I would be very interested to find out. Facilities, this is the pop-up cycle facilities, I suppose, should be segregated as far as possible, i.e. with physical measures separating cyclists and other traffic. Oh, so they do want them separated from other traffic, but with a minimum level of separation, I suppose, from what it said at the beginning. Lanes indicated by road markings only are very unlikely to be sufficient to deliver the level of change needed. The level of change needed. So it sounds like quite a significant level of change is needed, especially in the longer term. I'll read that sentence again. Lanes indicated by road markings only are very unlikely to be sufficient to deliver the level of change needed, especially in the longer term. Long-term change. They plan, clearly, significant change to our society, which is happening already, of course, but especially in the longer term. I'm afraid it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. Unless, barring a miracle, this is going to get worse and worse and worse. Next bullet point. Using cones and barriers to, widen footways along lengths of road, particularly outside shops and transport hubs, whatever a transport hub may be, to provide more space at bus stops to allow people to queue and socially distance. No. To widen pedestrian refuges, what's a pedestrian refuge, and crossings, both formal and informal, to enable people to cross roads safely, because we weren't able to cross roads safely before, did you know that? And at a distance. What's going on? What's going on? Next bullet point. Encourage walking and cycling to school. Sounds good, doesn't it? But there's something odd. Something very odd. For example, through the introduction of more school streets, in quotation marks, pioneered in London, these are areas around schools where motor traffic is restricted at pick-up and drop-off times during term time. They can be effective in encouraging more walking and cycling, particularly where good facilities exist en routes to the school and where the parents, children and school are involved as part of the scheme development. Next bullet point. Reducing speed limits. 20 miles per hour speed limits are being more widely adopted as an appropriate speed limit for residential roads and many through streets in built-up areas. 20-mile-an-hour limits alone will not be sufficient to meet the needs of active travel. But in association with other measures, reducing the speed limit can provide a more attractive and safer environment for walking and cycling. Next bullet point. Introducing pedestrian and cycle zones, which didn't exist before. No, there are no pedestrian zones at the moment, so we need to introduce them. You can't introduce something that already exists. It doesn't say introducing more pedestrian zones, it says introducing pedestrian and cycle zones, restricting access for motor vehicles at certain times or at all times. Well, that's not restriction, is it? At all times. To specific streets or networks of streets, particularly town centres and high streets. This may explain why I was unable to drive into the high street to get from one end of the town to the other yesterday. This will enable active travel, but also social distancing in places where people are likely to gather. New bullet point. Providing additional cycle parking facilities at key locations, such as outside stations and in high streets, to accommodate an increase in cycling. For example, by repurposing parking bays to accommodate cycle racks. Next bullet point. Changes to junction design. Changes to junction design.